Lily Parker had promised herself one thing after her divorce: to stay away from complicated emotions. She had spent 3 long years rebuilding her peace, moving from the busy noise of Seattle to a quiet street in Portland where no one knew her name. Her small apartment wasn't perfect, but it was hers, a soft space filled with secondhand furniture, plants that grew too wild, and the sound of rain against the window. She liked that kind of silence. It was on a windy Friday evening that she first met Emma. Lily was carrying groceries up the narrow stairway when one of the paper bags tore open, scattering apples across the floor. Before she could kneel to pick them up, a voice behind her said warmly, "Let me help you with that." Lily turned and saw a woman about her age, maybe 35, with loose auburn hair, paint smudged on her hands, and a smile that felt too bright for a rainy day. "I'm Emma," she said, gathering the apples with quick hands. "You must be the new neighbor across the hall." Lily smiled back, grateful. "Yeah, just moved in last week." "Well," Emma said, handing her the last apple, "welcome to the building. It's quiet here, but not boring, as long as you don't mind the sound of my music when I paint." That was how it began. Two women who lived across from each other, finding comfort in small conversations. What started as casual hallway greetings turned into coffee on the balcony, evening walks to the nearby park, and late night talks about life, love, and everything they'd lost along the way. Lily quickly learned that Emma was an artist. She painted murals for local cafes and loved old music from the 70s. She had that kind of energy that could make anyone feel at ease. And for Lily, who had spent so long behind walls of caution, Emma's presence was like a quiet light. They would sit on Emma's balcony, watching the city lights flicker. Emma would talk about her dreams, her projects, and sometimes about the man she was engaged to, Ethan. The name came up often, but always with a thoughtful tone. "He travels a lot for work," Emma once said, stirring her coffee. "But when he's home, he fills the house with calm." Lily liked the sound of that calm. It had been missing from her life for too long. Over time, Lily began to look forward to Emma's knocks on her door. Every evening they'd share stories, sometimes funny, sometimes painful. Emma had a way of listening that made Lily forget how heavy her heart used to be. She didn't realize how close they had grown until one night when Emma invited her for dinner. "You should finally meet Ethan," Emma said with her usual easy smile. "He's coming home tonight, and I know he'll want to meet the neighbor who keeps me company." Lily hesitated for a second. Meeting a fiancé felt strangely personal, but she agreed. That evening, she stood outside Emma's door, feeling a mix of curiosity and nervousness. When the door opened, the smell of roasted vegetables and warm bread filled the air. Emma wore a soft gray dress, her hair loose, her face glowing in the dim light. And then Ethan appeared. He was tall, with quiet eyes and a gentle voice. He didn't rush into the room. He seemed to move with calm assurance, as if he carried stillness with him. "So this is Lily," he said, smiling as he shook her hand. "Emma's mentioned you almost every day. I was starting to think you were imaginary." Lily laughed, feeling the tension ease. Dinner was light and filled with conversation. Ethan was charming in a subtle way, not loud or overly confident, just attentive. He asked about Lily's work at the library, her favorite books, her move to Portland. There was no judgment in his tone, only genuine curiosity. At one point, as Emma went to the kitchen, Ethan looked across the table and said softly, "Thank you for being there for her. Emma needed a good friend." Lily smiled. "She's been one for me too." When Emma returned, the three of them talked about travel and art, about music and small things that didn't seem important but made the night feel whole. The laughter came easily. The pauses felt comfortable, and the air around them grew warm with something Lily couldn't quite name. After dinner, as Lily stood to leave, Emma insisted on walking her to the door. "See? He's not so bad," Emma said teasingly, glancing back at Ethan, who was clearing the table. "He's kind," Lily said truthfully. "You two seem perfect for each other." Emma gave a small, thoughtful smile. "We try. Love isn't always about being perfect, though. Sometimes it's about understanding." Lily nodded, not realizing that this line would stay with her for weeks to come, before leaving. Ethan appeared again at the door. "I'm glad you came, Lily," he said, his tone low and calm. "Emma's right. You bring a nice energy to this place." There was something about the way he said it, not flirtatious, not distant, just sincere. It made Lily's heart skip a little, though she quickly brushed it away. Back in her apartment, she sat near her window, listening to the soft hum of rain. The dinner replayed in her mind, Emma's laughter, Ethan's quiet voice, the feeling of warmth between them. She didn't understand why it stayed with her, but it did. Over the next few days, she noticed small changes. Emma seemed happier, lighter. Sometimes when Lily passed by their door, she could hear the two of them laughing together. Other times, Ethan would see her in the hallway and smile. That same calm, knowing smile, it should have been nothing. But at WASN single quotes T.1 Sunday afternoon, Emma knocked again. "Come over," she said brightly. "Ethan made too much coffee and we're talking about repainting the living room. We need a third opinion." Lily hesitated for only a second before agreeing. As she stepped inside their apartment again, she felt that same warmth, like walking into sunlight after a long winter. Emma handed her a mug. "So tell me," she said, eyes bright, "which color feels more like home to you? Sea green or sand beige?" Lily laughed, holding both samples up. "Depends whose home you mean." Ethan smiled from across the room. "I think she means ours, but I'm starting to suspect she just wants your taste involved." Emma grinned. "Maybe I do." They all laughed then, not realizing how this simple, innocent comfort would lead to something none of them had expected. That night, as Lily walked back to her apartment, she realized that for the first time in years, she wasn't lonely. She didn't know what was changing, only that something was. And sometimes change doesn't knock loudly. It starts with a neighbor's smile, a shared cup of coffee, and a quiet sense that your life is about to open in a way you never planned. That was the night Lily stopped running from connection and unknowingly stepped into a story that would test the meaning of love, trust, and everything in between. After that evening, Lily found herself spending more time with Emma and Ethan. What started as friendly visits slowly turned into a familiar rhythm, shared breakfasts on weekends, movie nights after long workdays, and quiet talks on the balcony when the city went still. None of them had planned it, but their lives began to blend naturally. It's like three pieces that somehow fit. Emma was always the heart of it, full of warmth, energy, and color. She'd call Lily over to help her choose paints or show her a half-finished canvas. Sometimes she would paint while Lily read aloud from a book, their laughter filling the room. Ethan often joined them after work, loosening his tie and leaning in the doorway, watching them with a quiet smile. There was something peaceful in those moments, something Lily hadn't felt in years. But peace can be complicated when hearts begin to move in unplanned directions. Lily tried not to notice how close she and Emma had grown. It wasn't about romance, not yet, but it was a closeness that made her heart ache. Emma had a way of looking at her as if she saw past the walls Lily had spent years building. And when their eyes met, there was something gentle but unspoken there, something neither of them dared to name. One rainy evening, Emma called her over again. "Ethan's working late," she said. "I made soup. Come keep me company." Lily didn't even hesitate. She went, wearing her favorite sweater and bringing a small loaf of bread she'd baked earlier. The apartment smelled of cinnamon and paint. They ate quietly at first, then drifted into conversation about lost dreams, childhood summers, and the strange way life always circles back to connection. At one point, Emma looked at Lily and said softly, "Do you ever feel like you meet someone who reminds you who you are again?" Lily froze. "Yes," she said after a pause. "I feel that right now." They didn't speak after that for a while. The silence wasn't awkward, it was warm. It's like understanding without words. When Ethan came home later that night, the two women were sitting on the couch, sketching ideas for Emma's next painting. He paused at the doorway, watching them. Lily could feel his eyes on them, not in judgment, but curiosity, as if he was trying to read something hidden in the air. Then he smiled and said, "You two look like you're building something beautiful." Emma laughed lightly. "Maybe we are." Lily felt her heart skip, unsure what he meant or if he meant anything at all. But Ethan's tone wasn't teasing. It was thoughtful, almost tender. Over the next few days, the small moments between the three of them became harder to ignore. When Ethan spoke, he often looked at Lily longer than necessary. When Emma laughed, she'd sometimes reach for Lily's hand as naturally as breathing. The connection between them was unspoken but real, a thread tying all three together. One Saturday afternoon, they decided to visit the art fair downtown. The streets were filled with music, local vendors, and the smell of roasted almonds. Emma moved from booth to booth, like she belonged in that world, vibrant, alive, free. Ethan followed her with quiet admiration, while Lily tried to keep her emotions steady. At one booth, Emma picked up a small ceramic bird and said, "This looks like you." Lily, calm but strong. Ethan nodded, his voice low. "It does. She has that stillness." Their words made Lily blush, and she quickly changed the subject. But later that night, she couldn't forget the way Ethan had looked at her, not with desire, but with recognition, like he was beginning to understand the connection between her and Emma, and maybe in some way wanted to be part of it. A few days later, Emma invited Lily again for a painting night. The air was thick with the scent of turpentine and coffee. They painted side by side, the room quiet except for soft music in the background. Emma's brushstrokes were bold, full of emotion. Lily's were gentle, precise. At some point, Emma sighed and leaned back, looking at Lily's canvas. "You're afraid to take risks," she said with a playful smile. "Even in painting." Lily laughed nervously. "I guess I like control. It feels safer that way." Emma moved closer, lowering her voice. "Sometimes safe keeps us from feeling alive." The air shifted. The words hung between them, heavy but kind. Emma reached out, brushing a bit of paint off Lily's cheek with her thumb. "See? Life gets messy. It's okay." Lily didn't move. She just smiled softly. "I think I forgot how to let it be messy." Before either could say more, the door opened. Ethan stepped in quietly, setting down his bag. His eyes softened when he saw them. "You too," he said with a gentle laugh. "Every time I come home, this place looks more alive." Emma turned to him, smiling. "That's because she brings color with her." Ethan's gaze lingered on Lily for a second too long. "I can see that." Something about that moment, the three of them standing in the dim light, the smell of paint in the air, and the feeling of being seen felt different. The next few days passed in a blur of small moments. Ethan would sometimes stop by Lily's apartment to bring coffee or fix something she couldn't reach. Emma would text her randomly in the middle of the day a photo of a half-painted canvas, a quote, or just "miss you." Lily told herself it was just friendship, but she knew better. Feelings don't always announce themselves with clarity. Sometimes they creep in quietly, till one morning you wake up and realize your heart has already chosen sides. Or in this case, maybe not chosen at all. One evening, the three of them sat on the balcony. The sky was golden and the sound of city life echoed below. Emma rested her head on Ethan's shoulder and Lily sat across from them, sipping tea. "I think we make a good team," Emma said, her voice light but sincere. Ethan nodded. "We do. It's rare to find balance like this." Lily smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. But beneath that warmth was something else, fear, because she knew balance didn't always last. Later that night, as she was leaving, Ethan walked her to the door. "Thank you for being kind to her," he said softly. "Emma's been lighter since you came around." Lily nodded. "She's changed my world too." Ethan gave her that same quiet smile again. "Maybe you've changed ours." Lily couldn't sleep that night. The words repeated in her mind over and over. "You've changed ours." She didn't know what was happening, whether it was friendship, affection, or something unnamed, but she knew one thing for sure. Her life had become tangled with theirs in a way she couldn't undo, And though none of them spoke about it openly, each of them could feel it. Something was growing between them. Something that wasn't meant to be explained, only understood. A quiet storm was forming, not one that destroyed, but one that would test how far their hearts could stretch before breaking. It had been almost 2 months since Lily first met Emma and Ethan, and by now, their connection had become something deeper than friendship, but gentler than anything romantic. They shared moments that didn't need explaining. Late-night talks, shared meals, quiet mornings with coffee and laughter. Yet beneath the easy smiles, all three of them could feel something shifting, something they could no longer ignore. One afternoon, Emma called Lily and asked her to come over. Her voice sounded softer than usual, almost careful. "Ethan and I want to talk to you. Nothing bad, just something honest," she said. Lily's heart raced. For the rest of the day, she tried to guess what it could be. But no thought settled long enough to make sense when she arrived. The lights in the apartment were low. The air smelled like vanilla candles. And both Emma and Ethan were waiting on the couch. Emma looked nervous, but smiling, while Ethan's calm presence filled the room like steady ground. Lily sat down, unsure what to expect. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Yes, more than okay, actually. But we wanted to be open with you." Emma reached for Lily's hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "You've become really important to us," she said gently. "To me and to him." Lily froze. "What do you mean?" Emma hesitated, glancing at Ethan. He took a quiet breath before speaking. "Emma and I have been together for 8 years, he said slowly. "We've had our ups and downs, but through everything we've always believed in honesty. When she told me how close she felt to you, it didn't scare me. It made sense." Lily's throat tightened. "I don't understand," she whispered. Emma squeezed her hand. "What we feel for you, it's real, Lily. It's not simple, and it's not planned. But it's honest." The words hung in the air, soft but heavy. Lily didn't know what to say. She looked at Emma, the woman who had become her closest friend, the one who had made her laugh again, and then at Ethan, who looked at her not with confusion, but with understanding. Ethan continued, his tone gentle. "When Emma told me about you, about the way you make her feel, I realized something. Love isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it grows in unexpected ways. I don't want to fight that. I want to understand it. With her, and maybe with you." Lily's heart pounded. "Are you saying you both—" Emma nodded, her eyes glistening. "We both care for you. And we don't want to hide that anymore." Lily felt the room spin for a moment. It wasn't something she'd ever imagined. All her life, love had come with rules. Black and white, yes or no, right or wrong. But what she saw now wasn't wrong. It was real. 3 hearts that had somehow found each other in the same small space of time. "I don't know what to say," Lily whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Ethan replied. "We just wanted to be truthful. There's no pressure, no expectation. We just wanted you to know where our hearts are." Emma smiled softly, though tears shimmered in her eyes. "When you came into my life, I didn't realize how much I needed someone like you. You reminded me of who I was before life got complicated. You made me feel understood again." Lily looked down at their joined hands. "I feel that too," she admitted. "I just didn't know if it was okay to feel it." Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice calm. "It's okay to feel what's true as long as it comes from a place of respect. That's all we want. Honesty, kindness, and care." The 3 of them sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, rain began to fall softly against the windows, filling the quiet with a steady rhythm. Lily finally spoke. "So what happens now?" Emma looked at Ethan, then back at Lily. "We don't have to rush or label anything. We just keep being real with each other. If all we ever are is close, that's enough. But if it becomes something deeper, then we'll face it together honestly." Lily felt a tear slip down her cheek. It wasn't sadness. It was relief. She had spent years building walls to protect herself. But now, sitting there with them, she felt those walls start to crumble. Ethan poured them each a glass of wine, breaking the heaviness of the moment. "To honesty," he said softly. They clinked glasses, and for the first time in weeks, Lily felt calm. They talked for hours after that, not about love or labels, but about small things, favorite memories, travel dreams, childhood stories. The tension that once hung between them slowly melted away, replaced by trust later that evening. When Lily got up to leave, Emma hugged her tightly. "Whatever happens, you're part of our lives," she said. "That's all that matters." Lily nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for being honest. It means more than you know." Ethan walked her to the door. "We meant every word," he said quietly. "You've brought something peaceful into our lives. That's rare." As she stepped out into the hallway, Lily felt something shift inside her. Not confusion, not guilt, but clarity. What they shared wasn't traditional, but it was built on truth and care. It wasn't about breaking rules. It was about expanding them, making space for a kind of love that didn't fit into boxes. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, watching the rain fall in steady lines. The city lights reflected against the glass like fading stars. She thought about Emma's soft laugh, Ethan's calm voice, the way they both made her feel seen, and how that feeling, though complicated, was the most honest thing she'd known in years. Days passed after that talk, but nothing felt awkward between them. If anything, things grew even more natural. They laughed more, spoke more openly, and moved through life with a quiet understanding. There was no rush to define what they were. They simply existed in a space built on trust and connection. One evening, Emma dropped by Lily's apartment with a small painting, a simple scene of 3 trees, standing close together under the same moonlight. "It's us," she said shyly. Lily smiled, touched. "It's beautiful." Ethan arrived a few minutes later, carrying takeout. "I thought we could have dinner here tonight. A change of scenery." They ate together, the room filled with soft music and the hum of shared comfort. At one point, Lily looked around and realized something. She wasn't an outsider anymore. She was part of something gentle and whole. Ethan caught her gaze and said quietly, "Love doesn't always arrive in the way we expect, but it finds who it's meant to." Lily smiled, feeling the truth of his words settle in her heart, and though she didn't know where this story would go, she knew one thing: she wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever it became, it was real, and real was enough. That night, as she watched them leave, her apartment no longer felt lonely. It felt alive, filled with something warm, the kind of love that grows not from passion, but from understanding. The kind that doesn't take, but gives. The kind that changes everything quietly without ever asking for permission. Weeks passed after that quiet night of honesty, and something beautiful unfolded between Lily, Emma, and Ethan, something steady, calm, and full of unspoken care. They didn't rush into definitions or promises. They simply let their connection grow naturally, built on trust and understanding. It wasn't about ownership or desire. It was about belonging. Every morning seemed brighter. Lily found herself waking up with a smile, knowing she'd probably see them that day. Sometimes Emma would stop by with fresh muffins from the bakery down the street, her laughter echoing down the hallway before she even knocked. Sometimes Ethan would text "coffee later," short messages that carried more warmth than 1,000 words. Their lives began to blend in small, thoughtful ways. They shared moments that most people overlook: grocery shopping together, sitting at the park, feeding birds, watching the sunset from the balcony. There was no need for big gestures. The beauty was in the simplicity, in the comfort of being seen and accepted exactly as they were. Emma continued painting, but her art changed. Her colors became softer, deeper. "You've inspired me," she told Lily one afternoon, showing her a canvas filled with gentle light and shades of gold. "This one's about peace, the kind that doesn't shout, just stays." Lily smiled. "It feels like you—" Emma looked at her for a long moment. "It feels like us." That evening, Ethan joined them with a bottle of wine and dinner from their favorite cafe. They ate together on the balcony, the city glowing beneath them, laughter floating through the cool air. There was something sacred in the stillness that followed. Three people connected not by need, but by choice. After dinner, they talked about life, dreams, and the things they had once feared to say aloud. Ethan spoke softly about how love had changed for him over the years. When I was younger, he said, I thought love was about possession, about finding the one person who completes you. But now I think it's about sharing peace, about helping each other become more of who we already are. Lily listened, feeling those words settle deep in her heart. Emma reached for his hand, smiling. That's exactly what I've been learning, she said. Love doesn't always stay in the same shape. Sometimes it grows in ways that surprise you. They all fell silent after that, letting the truth of it linger in the night air. Over time, they found their balance. Some days were simple and light, movie nights, cooking together, or helping Emma prepare for her next art show. Other days were quieter, filled with reflection. There were moments of confusion too, small questions that rose and faded, but they always came back to honesty. That was their unspoken promise to never pretend, never hide. One autumn afternoon, they went on a short trip to the coast. The ocean stretched wide and endless, the wind cold against their faces. Emma ran ahead, her hair whipping wildly, and Lily followed, laughing. Ethan walked behind them, hands in his pockets, watching with contentment. When they stopped at the edge of the water, Emma turned to both of them and said, Do you ever think maybe we were meant to meet like this? Not by chance, but because we were supposed to teach each other something. Lily looked out at the waves. Maybe that love doesn't have to look like what we were taught. Ethan nodded. Maybe it just has to feel like home. That day, standing by the water, they took a photo together. Nothing dramatic, just three smiles framed by wind and sea. But to them, it captured everything. Back in Portland, life returned to its calm rhythm. Their connection deepened quietly. Not in loud declarations, but in the smallest details. The way Emma would save Lily's favorite mug. The way Ethan always remembered her favorite tea. The way they both made her feel that she belonged. One night, as they sat on the balcony again, the sky turning purple above them, Emma said softly, Do you think people would understand this? Lily hesitated. Maybe not, but maybe it's not for them to understand. Ethan smiled. Love doesn't need approval. It just needs truth. That night, Lily realized that she wasn't living someone else's story anymore. For years, she had believed love had one shape, one path. But now she understood it could take many forms, all beautiful in their own way. She didn't feel lost between them. She felt found. As the months passed, Emma's art show finally arrived. Her newest collection was called The Space Between Hearts. Each painting told a story of connection, not of passion or chaos, but of calm, patient love. Lily helped her set up the gallery, arranging the lights and labels. Ethan handled the guest list and music. When the doors opened, people were drawn to one particular piece, a painting of three figures standing close beneath the same sky, each one distinct yet softly connected by color. A woman in the crowd asked, What inspired this? Emma smiled. Real life, she said simply. Lily stood beside her, her heart full. The night was a success, but more than that, it felt like closure and beginning all at once. After the show, the three of them walked home in the cool evening air. None of them spoke much. They didn't need to. Every look, every quiet smile said enough. At home. They sat together again, the same way they had so many times before, Emma, with her head on Lily's shoulder. Ethan leaning back in his chair, a soft song playing in the background. The lights were low and the city shimmered outside their window. I used to think love had to be loud, Lily said quietly. But now I know it can whisper and still mean everything. Emma smiled without opening her eyes. Whispering love lasts longer. Ethan looked at them both, his voice steady. Whatever this is, it's real, and that's all that matters. Lily nodded, her heart full of calm. It wasn't the kind of love that demanded labels or rules. It was gentle, steady, and true. A love built on trust, respect, and understanding outside. The wind brushed through the trees. Inside, three hearts sat quietly in sync, Not tangled, not confused, just connected. Lily glanced between them, feeling peace wash over her. Maybe love isn't about choosing one path, she said. Maybe it's about walking together for as long as it feels right. Neither Emma nor Ethan answered, but both reached for her hand. And in that quiet moment, everything made sense. They didn't know where the road ahead would lead. Maybe their lives would change. Maybe time would separate them one day. But tonight, under the soft city glow, they didn't need to know. They were simply three souls who had found each other. And that was enough. Love, Lily realized, wasn't about possession or perfection. It was about presence, about being seen, understood, and accepted. And as she sat between them, listening to the faint sound of laughter echoing from the streets below, she smiled. Maybe love doesn't always look the way people expect. But when it's kind, honest, and pure, it becomes something more, something that lasts long after the moment fades. And in that quiet apartment in Portland, with the world sleeping outside, love lived, soft, steady, and endlessly real.